The Mountain is You is an eye-opening classic authored by Brianna Wiest, and it seeks to transform the reader's mind from a self-sabotaging mindset to that of self-mastery. Here are key highlights from the book. Number 1. The Mountain is You. There is nothing holding you back in life more than yourself. If there is an ongoing gap between where you are and where you want to be, and your effort to close it are consistently met with your own resistance, pain, and discomforts, self-sabotage is almost always at work. On the surface, self-sabotage seems masochistic. It appears to be a product of self-hatred, low confidence, or a lack of willpower. In reality, self-sabotage is simply the presence of an unconscious need that is being fulfilled by the self-sabotaging behavior. To overcome this, we must go through a process of deep psychological excavation. We must pinpoint the traumatic events, release unprocessed emotions, find healthier ways to meet our needs, reinvent our self-image, and develop principles such as emotional intelligence and resilience. It is no small task, and yet it is the work that all of us must do at one point or another. 2. Self-sabotage comes from irrational fear. Sometimes, our most sabotaging behaviors are really the results of long-held and unexamined fears we have about the world and ourselves. Perhaps it is the idea that you are unintelligent, unattractive, or disliked. Perhaps it is the idea of losing a job, taking an elevator, or committing to a relationship. In other cases, it can be more abstract, such as the concept of someone coming to get you, violating your boundaries, getting caught, or being wrongly accused. These beliefs become attachments over time. For most people, the abstract fear is really a representation of a legitimate fear, because it would be too scary to actually dwell on the real fear. We project those feelings onto issues or circumstances that are less likely to occur. If the situation has an extremely low likelihood of becoming reality, it therefore becomes a safe thing to worry about because subconsciously we already know it isn't going to happen. Therefore, we have an avenue to express our feelings without actually endangering ourselves. For example, if you are someone who is deeply afraid of being a passenger in a car, maybe your real fear is the loss of control or the idea that someone or something else is controlling your life. Perhaps the fear is of moving forward, and the moving car is simply a representation of that. If you were aware of the real issue, you could begin working to resolve it. Perhaps by identifying the ways you are giving up your power or being too passive. However, if you aren't aware of the real problem, you'll continue to spend your time trying to convince yourself to not be triggered and anxious while riding in the car and find that it only gets worse. If you try to fix the problem on the surface, you will always come up against a wall. This is because you're trying to rip off a band-aid before you have a strategy to heal the wound. 3. Self-sabotage comes from belief systems. What you believe about your life is what you will make true about your life. That's why it's so crucial to be aware of these outdated narratives and have the courage to change them. Maybe you have gone through the majority of your life believing that a standard $50,000 per year salary at a decent company is the most you will ever be capable of. Maybe you've spent so many years telling yourself, "I am an anxious person." You started to actually identify with it, adopting anxiety and fear into your belief systems about who you fundamentally are. Maybe you were raised in a close-minded social circle or an echo chamber. Maybe you did not know that you could question or arrive at new conclusions about politics or religion. Maybe you never thought you were someone who could have great style, feel content, or travel the world. In other cases, your limiting beliefs might come from wanting to keep yourself safe. Maybe that's why you prefer the comfort of what you've known to the vulnerability of what you don't. Why you prefer apathy to excitement. Think that suffering makes you more worthy, or believe that for every good thing in life, there must also be an accompanying bad. To truly heal, you're going to have to change the way you think. You're going to have to become very conscious of negative and false beliefs and start shifting to a mindset that actually serves you. 4. How to get out of denial. When we are in denial, we tend to go into blame mode. We look for anyone or anything to explain why we are the way we are. Then we start justifying. If you have to constantly, on a near daily basis, rationalize why you're unhappy about your life, you're not getting any closer to creating the lasting change that you so deeply desire. The first step in healing anything is taking full accountability. It is no longer being in denial about the honest truth of your life and yourself. It does not matter what your life looks like on the outside. It is how you feel about it on the inside. It is not okay to be constantly stressed, panicked, and unhappy. Something is wrong, and the longer you try to love yourself out of realizing this, the longer you are going to suffer. The greatest act of self-love is to no longer accept a life you are unhappy with. It is to be able to state the problem plainly and in a straightforward manner. That is precisely what you need to do to continue truly uprooting your life and transforming it. It is the first step towards real change. Take a piece of paper and a pen and write down everything you aren't happy with. Write down very specifically every single problem you face. If you're struggling with finances, you need a very clear picture of what's wrong. Write down every debt, every bill, every asset, and every bit of income. If you're struggling with self-image, write down exactly what you dislike about yourself. If it is anxiety, write down everything that bothers or upsets you. You must first and foremost get out of denial and into clarity about what's really wrong. At this point, you have a choice. You can make peace or you can commit to changing. The lingering is what is keeping you stuck. 5. Building emotional intelligence. Self-sabotage is ultimately just a product of low emotional intelligence. To move on with our lives in a healthy, productive, and stable way, we need to understand how our brains and bodies work together. We need to understand how to interpret feelings, what different emotions mean, and what to do when we are faced with big, daunting sensations that we don't know how to handle. 6. What is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, interpret, and respond to your emotions in an enlightened and healthy way. People with high emotional intelligence are often able to better get along with different types of people, feel more contentment and satisfaction in their everyday lives, and consistently take time to process and express their authentic feelings. Mostly though, emotional intelligence is the ability to interpret the sensations that come up in your body and understand what they are trying to tell you about your life. The root of self-sabotage is a lack of emotional intelligence, because without the ability to understand ourselves, we inevitably become lost. These are some of the most misunderstood aspects of our brains and bodies that inevitably leaves us stuck. 7. You don't change in breakthroughs, you change in micro shifts. If you're stuck in life, it's probably because you're waiting for the big bang, the breakthrough moment which all your fears dissolve and you're overcome with clarity. The work that needs to happen happens effortlessly. Your personal transformation rips you from complacency and you wake up to an entirely new existence. That moment will never come. Breakthroughs do not happen spontaneously. They're tipping points. Revelations occur when ideas that were sitting in the margins of your mind finally get enough attention to dominate your thoughts. These are the clicking moments, the moments when you finally understand advice you've heard your entire life. The moments when you've habituated yourself to a pattern of behavior for long enough that it becomes instinctive. A mind-blowing singular breakthrough is not what changes your life. A micro shift is. Breakthroughs are what happen after hours, days, and years of the same mundane, monotonous work. But a mind-blowing singular breakthrough is not what changes your life. A micro shift is. It's not radical moments of action that gives us long-lasting, permeating change. It's the restructuring of our habits. The idea is what science philosopher Thomas Kuhn dubbed a paradigm shift. Kuhn suggested we don't change our lives in flashes of brilliance, but through a slow process in which assumptions unravel and require new explanations. It's in these periods of flux that microshifts happen and breakthrough level change begins to take shape. Think of microshifts as tiny increments of change in your day-to-day life. A microshift is changing what you eat for one part of one meal just one time. Then it's doing that a second time and a third. Before you even realize what's happening, you've adopted a pattern of behavior. What you do every single day accounts for the quality of your life and the degree of your success. It's not whether you feel like putting in the work, but whether or not you do it regardless. This is because the outcomes of life are not governed by passion, they are governed by principle. You may not think what you did this morning was important, but it was. You may not think that the little things add up, but they do. Consider the age-old brain teaser. Would you rather have $1 million in hand today or a penny that doubles in value every day for the next month? The $1 million right now sounds great, but after a 31-day month, that one penny would be worth over $10 million. Making big sweeping changes is not difficult because we are flawed, incompetent beings. It's difficult because we are not meant to live outside of our comfort zones. If you want to change your life, you need to make tiny, nearly undetectable decisions every hour of every day until those choices are habituated. Then you just continue to do them. If you want to spend less time on your phone, deny yourself the chance to check it one time today. If you want to eat healthier, drink half a cup of water today. If you want to sleep more, go to bed 10 minutes earlier tonight than you did last night. If you want to exercise more, do it now for just 10 minutes. If you want to read, read one page. If you want to meditate, do so for 30 seconds. Then keep doing those things. Do them every single day. You get used to not checking your phone. You want more water and you drink more water. You run for 10 minutes and you won't feel like you have to stop, so you won't. You read one page, grow interested and read another. At our most instinctive physiological level, change translates to something dangerous and potentially life-threatening. No wonder why we build our own cages and stay in them even though there's no lock on the door. Trying to shock yourself into a new life isn't going to work, and that's why it hasn't yet. You don't need to wait until you feel like changing to start changing. All you need is to make one micro shift at a time and then let the energy and momentum build. Moving from self-sabotage to self-mastery sounds like an extraordinary transformation, when in reality it is the natural course of coming to understand that you were responsible for holding your life back, and so you are also capable of moving it forward.